Oddity fine! I got a big army cocks, a gin and tonic on the rocks, where angels fear to tread. I say, choose your booze, let's hit the red eye! Think of young Diana Durbin and how she sung on rum and bourbon. Or enhance your luncheon hour with a planter's punch and a whiskey sour. If you feel like a wreck, try a horse's neck or a sherry with a cherry in the new finer size. If you don't name your poison, I'll have to get the boys in. The spirit of adventure opens one's eyes.
Mental Gen?
We are actually not prepared this time. You see, unlike previous stories where at least one of us has read or skimmed through it prior to our actual reading, neither of us have ever seen a word of this one. Not once. So really, we have no idea what it is we're getting into. The story we are reading tonight is called
Seriously?
by RainbowBob. Seriously. It's called Seriously.
Yep.
Anyway, so from what I can understand of the description, this story is about a guy who gets transported to Equestria and finds himself turned into not a pony, but a Helicorpion. An extinct species of shark with a jawline that no possible evolutionary use for exists. Seriously, what the fuck is with that lower jaw? What possible purpose could that serve?
Beats the hell out of me. Anyway.
Well, yeah, but yeah, just again, quick reminder, we have no idea what it is we're getting into this time, and since we do all of our readings in one take, we apologize if we do make mistakes. But yeah, let's get the show on the road.
Also, this is first person.
Yeah. And at the moment of this recording, there are 2 chapters, though this may update. And so we're just going to read those 2.
Yep.
Alright, not beating around the bush. Let's do this.
Alright.
Wow, just look at the row of teeth on this guy!
The fat man said, poking the glass case with his meaty finger, smearing fingerprints on it. The row of teeth was shaped in a spiral, the fossil remnants of what appears to be the lower jaw of an animal trapped in a mud deposit millions of years ago.
Bastard had a mouth like a chainsaw!
I sighed from over at my end of the room, rubbing my brow in aggravation. Didn't help that every moron in that place had to touch the glass, even though there was clearly a sign saying not to 5 feet away. Right there. Large red print. Seriously, how can you not see that?
Humans are stupid animals, that's why.
Cracking my neck in preparation for another polite cease and desist, I made my way over to the chunky individual who was toting around a smaller but look-alike version of himself, probably his son. They both had the same ugly mug and protruding gut, even though the kid couldn't be more than 7 years old. Politely coughing to catch their attention, I said, "Excuse me, sir. It's museum policy not to touch the glass cases on the exhibits." It took several moments for these words to register in Fat Sir's head, and he immediately withdrew his sweaty paw from the smearing glass.
Just wanted to know what type of monster this guy is, with all that teeth and all.
I took a glance at the text underneath on the podium of the exhibit, clearly explaining the name and other unusual facts about the animal related to the fossil. Obviously, from the man's lack of rule following, even though it had pointed out in the sign 2 feet away from him made me suspect he was illiterate and only bothered to look at the picture of what the creature supposedly looked like. Sighing yet again, and getting disappointed in humanity once more, I said, "It's a Helicorpion, a chordata or fish, if you will, in the Daedaltheus class, better known as cartilaginous fishes or sharks."
So he is a shark.
Chimed in the man's son, already the perfect poster child for childhood obesity commercials.
Did he eat cavemen?
I silently ground my teeth, controlling my anger at the sheer stupidity of the question. He was just a child, and his brain was probably already stunted from his inbred genes of his father. I merely bring my hands behind my back and say, no, since he went extinct in the early Triassic period, about 225 million years ago. Homo sapien beings didn't exist back then. He, like many others of the Eugenidatia order, were only around from the Carboniferous period all the way to the Triassic.
Wow, a lot of archaeology terms.
Yeah.
All right.
What made him and many of his order special or bizarre, if you will, was the fact that they had a tooth whorl designed for their teeth. To this day, many paleontologists, such as myself, still speculated how exactly it was used, this structure.
I still say that there is no possible evolutionary purpose for that mouth.
You don't volunteer in the paleontology department.
And you do.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
And yet you can't explain it either.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
More than likely, it was developed as a means in order to snag the animal, curl it up, and throw it into its mouth.
Doubt it.
Whatever. Fatso Senior and Junior were silent for once. His new batch of facts flying over their heads and making their tiny primal brains working on overdrive.
So it's a shark, right?
The large man asked. Yes, it's a shark, you blundering idiot! I said him. I just said it! And it says so on the frickin' text underneath the exhibit if you could actually read!
Wow, you sounded like Insano there.
Both father and son stared at me at shock. Little lard boy in near tears, the man took his son by the shoulder and began to walk off, not before yelling over his shoulder.
I'll be talking to the owner of this museum about your behavior. Just you wait and see.
Sighing for the third time in less than 5 minutes, I ran a hand nervously down my short brown hair and leaned back against the exhibit case.
No, this is someone else.
Looks like Maggie pissed someone else off again.
A familiar voice teased from behind my back. Not now, Dave. I'm not in the mood for your shit. I groaned, rubbing my face with the back of my hand. Dave, the voice in question, walked over in front of me. He had short, spiky blonde hair that was a bit on the greasy side, was as thin as a twig, and had a face only a mother could love because of his pencil nose, grimy teeth, and dark bags under his eyes. That, along with his yellow nails, is a clear indicator of a smoking habit. Or, you can just tell it from the pack of cancer sticks he always kept in his front pocket.
What shit, dude? I'm just trying to lighten you up is all.
He teased, poking my chest with a bony finger.
You gotta relax, mate. Kick back. Though you might get the chance if the boss fires you for that little stunt you pulled.
Like I give a damn anymore, I retorted, smacking away his finger. I'm sick and tired of working in this crummy museum. I didn't go to college for 6 years to get a degree in paleontology just to sit my ass down and help idiot tourists.
Well, what are you gonna do?
Dave smiled, his fingers playing with a cigarette as his urge for a smoke slowly grew.
I did the same time you did, and I'm just dandy with this gig.
I wanted to travel the world, visit dig sites, discovering the secrets of the ancient world, but no. Instead, I get this shitty job. I moaned. God, I feel like a whiner today.
You are not whining. Shall we get Rarity in here to teach you how to properly whine?
Shut up.
Yeah.
That's because it's Monday, mate.
Dave laughed.
You know, it just occurred to me this guy might be Australian. Should I be doing an Australian accent instead?
Not in that voice.
Whatever.
Dave laughed, playfully slapping me on the back while he stuck his cig in his mouth.
You know what? I'm just going to keep it up.
Just ease up a bit, mate. Take some time off if you need it. Do some soul searching if you want.
I nodded my head, smiling a bit. Yeah, I get it, Dave.
Glad you do. Now I'm gonna take an early smoke break, so I'll cover my ass while I'm gone.
He said. Rolling my eyes at Dave's usual antics, I agreed and was soon left all alone at the fossil wing of the museum. Business was a bit dead today, so I clearly got bored out of my mind, glancing back to the exhibit of the Helicorpion. I noticed the greasy smudges left there earlier by Lord Butt's hand. Hissing in annoyance, I hightailed the janitor's closet and quickly grabbed some glass cleaner and a clean rag. If there was one thing I was going to be nitpicky on, it was dirty glass cases. Can't stand the sight of that. Spraying a good dose on it, I wiped furiously, intent on venting my aggression on the cleaning job at hand. After a good amount of rub and shine, the glass protecting the exhibit was all sparkly once again. Except for... What the hell? I pondered, peering closer at the fossil. There seemed to be something wedged right in the middle of the tooth whirl. Something shiny and rainbows. You gotta be shitting me. I said aloud, the small spot that was reflecting rainbows on the teeth was growing larger. Looking left and right, make sure no one was watching, I carefully unlocked the case from its stand and removed it from the exhibit, revealing the fossil to the open air. The small spot was now a decent-sized circle, light rainbow hues glowing from its light. Okay, this is getting into the weird, unexplainable territory. While I prepared for weird, since it's a requirement for my job, the unexplainable, I did not. Being a man of science, if I can't understand it through facts and figures, I consider it bullshit. Yet, how can I properly explain the slowly growing circle, glowing rainbow colors appearing out of nowhere on a fossil?
Well, you see, when two interdimensional planes come into contact with each other... I'm sorry, I've just been advised not to finish that sentence.
Yeah. You don't dabble in the interdimensional, like some of us. Anyway. Shit. I said, realizing what had to be done, and not letting you one bit. There was one thing that was my Achilles heel. It was that my dangerous sense of curiosity. It's the reason I became a paleontologist in the first place. Curious about the past world, and wanting to understand it more. Hovering my index finger over the circle of changing lights, I became nervous. Hesitant even. What will happen if I actually touch it? Why was it there in the first place? Am I really that stupid I'd actually do something like this? Most of these questions and more were answered the instant I poked the circle. I disappeared into a bright flash of light. White light, a cliché dimension-hopping act, if I ever saw one.
Okay.
Meanwhile, on the other side of time and space.
In Equestria.
Time to feed the fishes.
Fluttershy said happily, a box of fish feed bouncing on her back, she trotted over to the river nearby our cottage. The timid Pegasus was certainly in the joyous mood, having fed most of her animals just minutes before. Now came the last contenders, the fishes that hung by the pond. Whistling a jolly tune, she flew up over a hill and started to gently descend down until she reached the pond that ran at the end of the river. At her arrival, many of the aquatic life popped their heads out of the water. Koi, bass, catfish, bobs, and yes, even goldfish all eagerly opened and closed their mouths for their daily feeding.
Well, you all are certainly hungry today.
She joked, setting the box down and opening it, scooping up a hoofful of food.
Now remember to share.
She called out, throwing the feed to the fish, along with several more hooffuls, just to be sure they all got properly fed. Just as the fish began to smack down their food, a loud bang could be heard from above, the bright flash of light temporarily blinding all those present. It was quickly followed by a loud splash that threw up a wall of water, which quickly soaked Fluttershy to the bone. Poor mare's coat hung downward.
Coat and mane.
Coated per mane. The poor mare's coat and mane hung downward. Just water droplets dripped onto her wings and from her wings onto the grounds. The yellow-coated Pegasus cowered in a mix of fear and coldness, since the water certainly wasn't warm.
Who's there?
She stuttered, staring at the still pond for any sign of movement. That was an indicator as the thing that just splashed down out of nowhere. At first, nothing moved. Then the head popped out of water. They nearly caused her to have a heart attack. It was a shark. A real-life shark, except its entire bottom jaw was replaced with what appeared to be a circular saw of sorts. Shark stared at her, unblinking, and then finally it opened its mouth, the rows of razor-sharp teeth, nearly scaring Fluttershy to death. Holy shit! A Pegasus! Unfucking believable!
And that concludes Chapter 1. On to Chapter 2. Actually, to be fair, that is the exact same reaction I'd had if I suddenly was transported to Equestria.
Chapter 2. Talking sharks aren't weird enough.
We have to deal with talking helicorpions. Though, since its jaw has no functional evolutionary purpose, I can't imagine it wouldn't allow it to talk either. Okay!
I just told you!
Okay, I just can't get... You know what? Fine, I'll shut up about its damn jaw!
Yeah, and guess what? The pinky has just as much evolutionary purpose as that jaw.
Fine.
The Pegasus' jaw dropped to the ground. I mean, it just dropped and hit the dirt. Like something out of a freaking cartoon. That itself was strange enough. But even more whacked out things were happening at the moment, like my body. For example, I could no longer feel my clothes hugging my body. Heck, I couldn't even feel my arms and legs either. Sort of. When I tried to wiggle my fingers and toes, I got no movement whatsoever. Flopping my arms had some results. Like there were flippers attached to the sides of my chest, where my arms should be. My legs, however, felt more like leg. Only one that I could move. Left, right, up, and down. So things weren't looking too bad at the moment except for the looking part. My vision was split in two, a dark line in the middle separating two images. It was freaky, to say the least. I could see the Pegasus, but at two different angles at the same time. For some reason, I was inexplicably knew she was exactly 5 feet 6 inches away from me. Heck, I could see all around me, and in crystal clear color too. So good, in fact, I can focus on an individual blade of grass 10 feet away without a problem. There was the matter of my mouth, which was definitely not normal at the moment. In fact, it felt like I didn't have much of a lower jaw at all, more like a tongue, actually. I tried moving it up, and much to my surprise, it curled up like a snake. Well, somebody better pick up that phone, because I fucking called it!
Fine!
Moving it left to right produced these same results. My lower jaw was like a rope. I could control any which way I pleased, with a bunch of serrated teeth attached to it as a bonus. Have to admit, that was pretty sweet.
I still see no evolutionary purpose for the
Shut up!
Get off your soapbox. I then noticed the Pegasus was shivering there, staring in awe, or more like disgust at my jaw-playing spectacle.
What are you?
She squeaked, backing away quickly. The noise could barely be registered by any normal person, but for some reason my hearing went up a few notches, and I heard exactly what she said. Holy shit, another time! You can talk! I blurted out, the process of speaking awkward at the time being. What with my lower jaw being the only one able to move, and it kept trying to curl back into my chin.
You can talk?
She repeated hastily, falling on her back and scooting away. Yeah, I know that, but how can you be able to pronounce words, and in English no less? I asked her, clearly female from the tone of her voice and clearly girly color scheme.
How can a shark talk and speak equestrian?
She shot back, now exactly 22 feet away, 22 feet 7 inches away from me. Shark? What are you talking about? I know. It was at this moment that it finally hit me. The fossil, the rainbow light, the sudden appearance in a pond, talking to a Pegasus with the inability to use my limbs. It all made sense now. I'm high as fuck!
Have you ever watched the sun go down and you're thinking about the world spinning round? Have you ever been high as fuck? I'll put a link to that song in an annotation.
What?
The Pegasus said, taken back by this statement.
High as what now?
That's the only explainable reason why this is happening. Dave probably put a roofie in my coffee this morning, or something idiotic like that. This is all a result of drugs fucking with my mind. Certainly made the most sense at the moment to me.
But I'm real.
She pointed out, no longer shivering, but still plenty apprehensive about approaching closer to me. Sure, a talking Pegasus is definitely real, I said while rolling my eyes, or at least trying to. 360 vision made it confusing as hell rotating my eyeballs. This is obviously just the product of my drug-addled mind. I'll probably have to head over to therapy after this to deal with the fact that I started hallucinating about Pegasi. But other than that, I'll just wait this out. I gave her a smug grin, the best one I could manage, a sigh in relief, tried to breathe, and I failed at this.
Is something wrong?
She asked, and she noticed I was struggling breaths. Can't breathe. Need air. No! I managed to spit out before the last oxygen in my lungs left my body.
Oh no!
She yelled, rushing over me as I flopped in the mud of the shallow water.
You need water to breathe!
She pushed me deeper into the pond, grunting at my large weight as I finally dived beneath the surface. Instantly, I could breathe again, gulping in the pond water like no tomorrow. But now, for no reason, I felt flaps on my side and my neck open up as I breathed, the water instead entering over the surface here and giving me air. I didn't know which was more effective, so I tried both until my lungs were properly sated. Wiggling my body back to the surface, my head broke out of the water and I yelled, "Holy shit, I am a shark!" That much was clear from my near-land drowning.
Yeah, I noticed.
She said, wiping sweat from her forehead, her body now coated in mud along the water. I can't be a shark. I'm a human, not a helicorpion. You've been extinct for millions of years.
Hello, what now?
The Pegasus asked. I tilted aside. Helicorpion, a shark that went extinct millions of years ago. The ones with the weird-ass jaws like myself. I explained, waving my whip-like jaw in front of her face. It seems that by having my neck stay below the surface and by my head still sticking out, I can breathe fine with my gills, though it was shallow breaths at best. Still didn't know how to properly control them. But I can't be one, because I'm human.
Well, I don't know what a human is, but you're clearly a shark.
She said, backing away from my jaw wiggling.
How did you end up here in the first place?
I was cleaning the glass on the exhibit. The Helicorpion fossil started glowing pretty colors. I touched it and boom! Teleported and shapeshifted right over in the land of talking Pegasi.
Well, there aren't just Pegasi here.
She admitted. I arched an eyebrow, if I had one, and said, "Oh, let me guess, there are unicorns too?"
Along with earth ponies, dragons, griffins, minotaurs, and a whole bunch of other races.
She said, "Well, fuck me, I landed in the magical wonderland, huh? I really, really, really wish I actually was high right now." I groaned, attempting to shake my head. So it resulted in my body moving with the confines of my neck moving, my torso and my tail whipping side to side. And now I have to deal with the fact that I'm a fish. Fucking fantastic!
Mr. Limpet didn't have this problem. Then again, he wasn't a shark.
Yeah, he was the incredible Mr. Limpet.
Yeah.
Well, it's not all that bad.
The Pegasus said, a warm smile on her face. How exactly is it not all bad? I spat at her. And why aren't you running away afraid of me like last time?
Well, you're not so bad once I got talking to you.
She replied.
And even though you're in a completely different world with a whole new body, I'll be your friend and make everything easier for you.
Wait, you'd actually be instant friends with a talking shark that appeared out of nowhere? I asked in disbelief.
I sure would. My name's Fluttershy.
The pink-maned Pegasus greeted, reaching out her hoof for me to shake or do something with. I stared at outstretched hoof, and the fact that I have no arms was not dawning on her. Name's Mike, and sorry to burst your bubble, but even if I did have arms and hands, I wouldn't shake your hoof. I replied coldly. I mean, who makes friends with a complete stranger like that? You know nothing about me, and I know nothing about you. She frowned slightly, her unnatural big pupils growing even larger.
Well, Mike, you just seem afraid and confused. Even if you look scary, that doesn't mean I still can't be your friend. Everyone needs a friend when in need.
Now isn't that touching? I mocked her, withdrawing my jaw so it once again curled into my chin. But frankly, I don't give a damn and I don't want to be your friend. I just want to go home and drink until I forget all about this.
Oh, okay then.
She said meekly, sniffing and wiping her nose.
You don't have to be so mean about it.
Of course I'm going to be fucking mean about it! I have no arms and legs! How do you think
think that makes me feel?
I shouted at her, submerging my head below the surface again to grab another gulp of water to catch my breath.
It must feel terrible.
She admitted, trying to hide her head behind her wet mop of a mane.
I was only trying to help.
I scoffed at her. The only help I need is a way back home, with my proper body. If you can't do that, you're a useless idiot.
I...
Tears streamed down her face as she went running off, bawling her eyes out like a newborn brat. Hey, come back here! I shouted, pulling myself close to the water's edge so she could hear me. Don't just fucking leave me here, you... Damn. I sighed, crawling back into the water. Way to go, moron. You scared off your only chance to survive in this world. Nice fucking idea. I berated myself. I really did need to go learn to control my temper, especially when making first contact with a sentient species.
This is the kind of thing that usually starts wars.
The next several minutes I floated atop the water, breathing in and out through my gills, which I was getting better the hang of. As I waited for something to happen, eventually my stomach growled. I didn't eat anything for breakfast, and lunch was supposed to be 15 minutes ago by my time standards. Tucked my head below the surface and instantly could feel the presence of other life forms. It's weird to explain, but it felt as though I had this field enveloping me, a slight buzz tingling my snout. I couldn't exactly see how far it went out, but each moment the water disrupted it, like a bubble surrounding me. It didn't break, but I could feel all the movement being played on it. And right now, I could feel a certain disturbance that sent my senses on overdrive. A koi fish, elegant and graceful, swimming without a care nearby me. In the blink of an eye, I was on it. The koi may have been smaller, and my large size definitely wasn't helping me out in this situation. I had the edge of an unparalleled primal hunger and predatory instincts. My lower jaw curled up and sprung out like a whip, clearly through the water, like it was butter, wrapping around the body of the koi just as it was about to escape. The serrated teeth on my jaw tore the fish to shreds as I gulped the blood and fish guts, the taste of flesh only fueling my hunger.
Okay, maybe that is a use for that type of jaw.
Somebody better pick up that phone, because I fucking called it!
You win! You win! You win!
I always win. I ended my meal with a final chop, my electrical field picking up even more movement around me. No, this wasn't a meal. This was a feeding frenzy.
Fish are friends, not food.
Not quite. Rainbow Dash stood in mute silence at the edge of the pond, her jaw dropping to the ground, much like a mare only minutes before heard the horror and scenes before her. The pond was quickly turning red with blood, fish bits rising to the surface. Below, in the deep edge of the water, one could clearly see thrashing and a large figure moving this way, and that even more gore followed in its wake.
Dear Celestia, that's disgusting!
The rainbow maned Pegasus moaned, a hoof held up to her mouth to try and keep the vomit from spilling forth. Who knew to visit the Fluttershy's cottage would begin with her checking out a red pond and finding the remains of numerous fish here. Then out popped the head of a koi, poor guy still alive somehow, as his jaw moved up and down to gulp down water to no available body. At that point, that Rainbow Dash threw up, puke mixing with the red of the pond water. I could call this poetic, but I'm thinking disgusting fits the term better.
Well, that concludes chapter 2. And... Okay, you were right! I was wrong! I'll admit it!
Yeah, it does have a high evolutionary functional purpose.
If it does have an evolutionary functional purpose, riddle me this. Why is it extinct and the other sharks who don't have this jaw still alive?
Because more than likely, it got thinned out, or it evolved beyond the capabilities of such a jaw. You ever heard of the coelacanth?
I'm sure I have, but the name's not ringing any bells.
Only exists in the deepest parts of the ocean because of the pressure differences. But could be a similar thing. Maybe they just adapted to a different environment and, well, you know, when the asteroid hit the, you know,
Earth.
like it almost did today. Yes, an asteroid came within 17,200 miles.
Russia, right?
No, an asteroid passed. That was a completely unrelated incident with a meteorite that exploded. Anyway, so that concludes the first 2 chapters of Seriously.
And yeah, and like I said, as of this moment, there are only 2 chapters, but who knows that it's listed as incomplete, so who knows? There might be more updates.
Yep.
I keep looking at this one. It definitely seems like it's off to a good start.
Yeah, it's got blood, gore, comedy, tragedy.
And sharks with fully functional evolutionary jaws.
Yes.
Oh well. Good night.
Yep, good night, good luck, and we'll give it a full rating when it's finished.
Actually, you know what? I'm just going to give my rating now. 9.5 out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 9 so far.
Alright. Either way, good night.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.